September 7th, 1927, San Francisco, California. Inside a small laboratory, a 21-year-old inventor named Philo Farnsworth was preparing an unusual experiment. On one side of the room was an electronic camera. On the other was a receiver. His team placed a simple image, a straight line, in front of the camera. Then they switched on the equipment. A moment later, the line appeared on the screen in another part of the laboratory. It was not a movie. It was not even a detailed picture. But something extraordinary had happened. An image had been turned into an electronic signal and transmitted from one place to another. Farnsworth had taken a major step toward fully electronic television. But he was not the only person trying to make pictures travel. Across Europe and America, other inventors were working on the same dream. One had already demonstrated moving images using spinning disks. Another would become part of a powerful company determined to develop electronic television. And the struggle over who deserved credit would eventually lead to a major patent battle. So, who really invented television? Welcome to TalePath English. If you enjoy learning English through fascinating stories, subscribe to the channel. Today, we're going back to the early days of television to discover how a handful of inventors helped create the screen that changed the world. Farnsworth's experiment did not appear from nowhere. For decades, scientists and inventors had been searching for ways to send images over a distance. By the late 19th century, the telegraph could send messages through wires. The telephone could carry the human voice. But pictures were another challenge. In 1884, a young German inventor named Paul Nipkow patented an unusual idea. At the center of his system was a spinning disc with small holes arranged in a spiral. As the disc turned, it could scan an image one small section at a time. The idea became known as the Nipkow disc. Nipkow did not create the television people would later have in their homes, but his scanning idea became important in the development of mechanical television. The dream was becoming clearer. If sound could travel over a distance, perhaps pictures could travel too. Decades later, a Scottish inventor named John Logie Baird became fascinated by the same problem. Baird did not have a huge laboratory or unlimited money. He experimented with whatever equipment he could find. His system used spinning disks to scan images and turn them into signals. The pictures were small, unclear, and sometimes difficult to recognize. But they moved. In 1925, Baird demonstrated recognizable television images. Then, in January 1926, he demonstrated his system to members of the Royal Institution and a journalist in London. Observers could see moving images transmitted by the machine. It was an extraordinary achievement. Baird had shown that television was not simply an impossible dream. Mechanical television could work. But another type of television was developing, and it would eventually change everything. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, another young inventor was thinking about television differently. Philo Farnsworth grew up in the American West. As a teenager, he became fascinated by electricity and science. According to accounts from Farnsworth and people close to him, an important idea came to him while he was working on his family's farm. As he looked at the straight rows of a field, he imagined an image being divided into lines. Instead of using spinning mechanical disks, perhaps an image could be scanned electronically, line by line. When Farnsworth was still a teenager, he explained his high school science teacher of a television idea to him and drew a diagram of it. The idea seemed extraordinarily ambitious. Farnsworth had little money, He had no famous laboratory, and he was still very young. But he believed television did not need to depend on spinning mechanical parts. The future, he believed, would be electronic. By the mid-1920s, Farnsworth had found financial supporters and moved to California. There, he began building the system he had imagined years earlier. One of its most important parts was a device called the image dissector. Instead of mechanically scanning a picture with a spinning disk, Farnsworth's system converted an image into an electronic signal. Then came the experiment of September 7th, 1927. His team transmitted the image of a simple straight line. The image appeared on a receiver. According to a famous account, Farnsworth later sent a message to one of his financial supporters. "The damned thing works." The picture itself was simple, but the principle behind it was revolutionary. Television could work electronically, and that opened the door to something far more powerful than the mechanical systems of the time. Farnsworth was not working alone. Another important figure in the development of electronic television was Vladimir Zworykin. Born in Russia, Zworykin later moved to the United States and worked on electronic television technology. Eventually, he joined RCA, the Radio Corporation of America. RCA had something Farnsworth did not: enormous resources, laboratories, engineers, and business power. Under the leadership of David Sarnoff, RCA wanted to play a major role in the future of television. Zworykin and RCA developed important electronic camera and picture tube technologies that helped make television increasingly practical. But there was a problem. Farnsworth already held important patents connected with electronic television. Soon, television would become more than a scientific competition. It would become a legal battle. RCA challenged Farnsworth's claims. The company argued over who had developed important parts of electronic television first. Farnsworth had one powerful piece of evidence. Years earlier, when he was still a teenager, he had shown his television design to his science teacher, Justin Tolman. Tolman remembered the drawing. That early explanation helped support Farnsworth's claim that he had developed the idea independently. In 1934, the U.S. Patent Office ruled in Farnsworth's favor in an important patent dispute. RCA continued fighting, but eventually it agreed to license Farnsworth's patents. It was a remarkable victory. A young, independent inventor had defended his work against one of America's most powerful technology companies. But television itself was still evolving. The next challenge was to move it out of laboratories and into people's homes. During the 1930s, electronic television improved rapidly. Experimental broadcasts became more common. In Britain, the BBC began a regular high-definition television service in 1936, initially alternating between Baird's mechanical system and an electronic system. The electronic system proved more practical, and mechanical television gradually disappeared. In the United States, television was publicly demonstrated on a large scale at the 1939 New York World's Fair. But the Second World War slowed down television's expansion. After the war, everything changed. During the late 1940s and 50s, television sets entered millions of homes. Families gathered around small screens to watch news, entertainment, sports, and important public events. A technology that had once seemed impossible was becoming part of everyday life. So, who invented television? Like the telephone, there is no completely simple answer. Paul Nipkow developed an important early idea for mechanically scanning images. John Logie Baird successfully demonstrated working mechanical television. Philo Farnsworth made a crucial breakthrough in fully electronic television and successfully transmitted an electronic image. Vladimir Zworykin and engineers at RCA helped develop electronic television technology further and helped make it practical on a large scale. And many other scientists and engineers contributed along the way. Television was not created in one laboratory on one afternoon. It developed over decades. Different inventors solved different parts of the problem, and gradually those ideas came together.
Television continued changing long after those early inventors. Black and white pictures became color. Broadcast signals traveled farther. Satellites allowed programs to cross oceans. Television sets became larger, thinner, and clearer. Then digital technology transformed the screen again. Today, we do not even need to sit in front of a traditional television set. We can watch programs on phones, tablets, computers, and smart TVs. We can stream a program whenever we want. We can watch events happening on the other side of the world almost instantly. The machines would be almost unrecognizable to Baird or Farnsworth. But the original dream remains familiar. Sending moving images across a distance so that someone else can see them. Before we finish, let's learn 5 useful English words from today's story. Broadcast. To send television or radio programs to many people. Television stations broadcast programs to people's homes. Transmit. To send a signal, sound, or image from one place to another. Farnsworth transmitted an electronic image in 1927. Screen. The surface where pictures or information appear. Early television screens were very small. Signal. Electrical or electronic information that carries sound, pictures, or data. Television pictures travel as signals. Electronic. Using systems that control electricity to process or transmit information. Electronic television eventually replaced mechanical television. Television began with a dream that sounded almost impossible. How could moving pictures travel from one place to another? Nipkow, Baird, Farnsworth, Zworykin, and many others approached that problem in different ways. Some ideas disappeared. Others became the foundation for new technologies. Together, their work changed how people experience the world. For the first time, millions of people could watch the same events without being in the same place. News entered living rooms. Sports crossed continents. Entertainment became a shared experience. And eventually, the television screen became only one part of a much larger digital world. It's time for questions. Write your answer in the comments. How do you think television has changed the way people understand the world? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the story of television. See you in the next story.